Greetings and welcome back to Smartwatch Ticks. It's an exciting day today. We've got something not just new to show you, but technology that is really moving ahead. We are looking at something that has ECG capability in it, along with, of course, PPG. What in the world am I talking about? Well, you're about to find out. This is a fitness band. Yes, and it does a lot of things like a lot of fitness bands do, but it does them better, at least supposedly. It does them with pizzazz, P-I-Z-Z, right? Pizzazz. Oh, come on, get me in here. I'm wasting everybody's time. We're looking at the ECG heart rate Smartband called the T6, and this one comes to us directly from the manufacturer themselves, Toledatech. And we've got a scoop on the inside workings of this thing. What is it and how does it really operate? Let's take a look at the specs. It's a ECG bracelet using ECG+PPG medical grade components. It does blood pressure, heart rate monitoring. It's totally waterproof. Health bracelet. Model T6, running Bluetooth 4.0, covering those different languages. The app we're going to link to is brand new, GoHeart. Haven't seen that one before. It's support for all of these good things. Okay, has an exercise plan. Call or message, it'll show those. It's the screen size, the battery capacity, standby time 7 days, 2 hours to charge, and basic material is PC. All right. More on that in a minute, but first let's get into it. Let's take a look at this thing. When we open it up, we get the manual in Chinese, hopefully English as well. We've got a little charging thing, which is the standard. We're seeing this a lot on fitness bands. It's like a little clothespin that clamps onto the device with some charging ports, and here it is. This is the unit. Got a little plastic cover that we can take off. And now, anything else? No, that's it. Let's look at this. Well, there's one big glaring silver button in the front, and most of these devices have a button to navigate with. Oftentimes it's invisible, but this time it's metal. And why is it metal? Because on the back we have 2 metal plates. And why do we have these 3 metal plates? So we can make an electrical circuit between your left arm around your wrist and your right arm on the button, and electricity will loop between your hands, through your arms, and across your heart. And that's what's important, because this picks up the electrical signal from your heart. The diodes right here for your pulse rate, that we're used to. This picks up the movement of blood in your capillaries, and it can calculate your pulse rate from the change in that blood movement. But this is what makes this thing really cool. This is ECG. Let's take a look at the manual. In English, it says all of this. Thank you for purchasing it. Okay, the bracelet elements, goes over what those electrodes are. Application download, this is where you get the GoHeart app for iOS or Android, but you can just go to the Google Play Store right now and download the app. You'll need to create an account and log in, but once you do that, you get access to all of the stuff and you could check it out even before you order this thing. It's got sports mode, health mode, there's information about it. Step 1 and step 2, how you actually use it. And what's really fun is you can get the ECG data playback and save as a PDF file your own heart rate, just like at your doctor's office. And then there's the care, how you care for your band. And that's it on the English side. On the other side, you have the manual all in Chinese. And this is it. So let's turn it on. Let's check it out. Let's see what it can do. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm tongue-tied by this one, and that usually doesn't happen. It really doesn't. But this is incredible. And it's even more incredible when you see the app, and you're about to. Let's walk through it real quick. Time, haha, it's 24 hours. It's 3:55 in the afternoon. 12-hour mode, it's available. Your steps, not many, but just a start. Your calories burned, computed by all of the data you put in. The distance you've traveled, not by GPS, but by calibration and calculation, of course, from your information. Then you get into the ECG plus PPG. Whoa, it's flashing down below. Here's the PPG. And here's your blood pressure. And here's the temperature in degrees centigrade. Haven't figured out how to change that, though. Here's what this data looks like. I'm going to press and hold for a moment. It flashes, and now it's accumulating some baseline data before I let go, so I get a really good average to start the reading with. There you go. Now it's calculating the heart rate or pulse using just the green diode. And it vibrated, and there's my reading, 73. Come over here, do same thing. I'm going to press and hold, get a little flash, getting calibrated, let it go. Should take off on its own in a moment. And now again, using the diode technology, it's calculating my blood pressure. Notice I'm not touching the metal plate, so it's not involving the ECG. This is just PPG. 130/83. When you go in here and you actually touch the button where it says ECG plus PPG, it's going to go for about 30 seconds, and it's collecting the data the same as you're going to see in the app in just a minute. And after the 30 seconds, instead of displaying the results on the screen, because there's a lot of results, it's going to basically tell you, I've got it. It's been recorded, and next time you sync up, it'll send the data to the app. And then it cycles through again. So, all the way through. Oh, and messages if you have any. And find your phone if you're tethered. And then the overall information and a power off button, it looks like. I'm going quickly because it times out. And then it loops again. If you press and hold, you change to the other clock face, which is an analog one. That's it. And you go through them all again. And again, press and hold, and you're back to digital. So you can see all of the data for instantaneous results on your Smartband. However, when you tether it to the app, oh my gosh, look at this app. Oh, it's called GoHeart. Hey, anything that tethers to GoHeart, buy it in a heartbeat. Pun intended. This is the first one. I installed it and I did everything, and then I've uninstalled it. So I want to show it to you right from the very get-go. We launched GoHeart App, and you can create an account, or you can log in with any of these third-party apps. Google's not there, which is sad because I usually log in with Google, but if you have any of these accounts, you can log in. Whoops. And you can also log in once you've created an account, which is exactly what I'm going to do right now. Now, when you log in successfully, which we have done, you come to this first page, which is your overall summary of sports, sleeping, and PPG heart rate. Remember, PPG is your optical heart rate, or pulse, we're going to call it, pulse rate measurement. They're calling it heart rate here. You hit the Health tab and you get to this very busy looking page. You hit this one and you get to Care, which is where it's loading any friends you have that are logged in on the network, so you can, I guess, work with and encourage each other. And you hit Mine, and this is where it has your basic data. And I previously, when I logged in, set up SmartWatch Ticks as my username, and I took all the default settings for the case of this example, and important, it lets you wear it on the left hand or the right hand, and believe it or not, the ECG chart that you'll be seeing shortly will run forward or backward depending on which arm you're actually wearing it on. Wow. Okay, security settings, you can change your password or you can log out again. So you've got all of that basic stuff, plus the ability to set an icon if you want to, and connect a bracelet. Now, the bracelet is on, obviously. You saw it showing its display here a little bit ago. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to say connect a bracelet. Bluetooth is on, and look how fast it finds it. And look how fast it connects it. Nobody else has done that like that. It is on, and it is connected. And we're ready to go. The time would be synchronized automatically if it hadn't been. And we can go through all the different settings of things that we can do. Let's do that. User settings, we checked that out. That's all of that stuff. Now, target heart rate or target steps is where you set whatever step count you would like to accomplish in a day. And it will monitor all that through the day and reset at midnight. Your sleep target is how many hours of sleep you want. Hours and minutes. And you can confirm that. Your device management is where we're going to get into. Shake Snapshot actually turns on a camera, and it has the option for you to tag your photos with location if you want to. And I'm going to just wiggle this a little bit while I shake the band. And up, 2, 1, and boom, it's taking a picture. So it's giving you a countdown too. So you can set it up to do selfies and watch it while it's happening. So it's a different kind of its own camera in here. It's not linking to an external camera app. It's working with its own camera app within the app itself. Fine bracelet is going to cause it to vibrate, and it is. I'm going to set it on the camera here. I don't know if that's making sound or not, but it's lighting up an icon and vibrating the bracelet. And then there's operating instructions, which we'll come back to. So device management, here's where it gets fun. For normal use of notification services, you have to open the GoHeart Read Notifications Permissions. And that's right here. And this tells you all the stuff that is going to happen. And this is standard Android information. As you know, you have to enable these things in order to get push notifications. So we've got GoHeart set up. I can turn on an hourly heart rate monitoring process. I can, now this is interesting, set lift the wrist to brighten the screen. Or I can set turn the wrist to brighten the screen. They're different. And that's the first time we've seen that. I can have a call reminder, so it will push when my phone rings to notify me on the band that a call has come in, or a text message. And I can set Do Not Disturb, which looks like it's locked into this time frame, 2200 to 800. I don't see a way of being able to change that. But then you won't get any vibration while you're asleep in your band if you're sleeping with it to collect your sleep time. And more reminders, of course, will take you into all the different apps that they're supported and give you a reminder from those, plus all of the sedentary reminder type things like taking medicine, meetings, your overall sedentary remind. You can set the interval, the start time, and the end time for any of these. So you have multiple recurring alarms that'll vibrate on your wrist when these events come up. And they're selectable by you. 4 of them, which is nice too. We got a lot more robust capabilities. There's individual alarm clock settings that you can do by adding an alarm, at what time you want it, what days of the week you want it, and confirm that, and you'll get vibration when the alarm goes off. Now, here's the fun. 12 or 24-hour format. We are on 24-hour format right now. I can set it to 12-hour, and I can set my measurement to imperial instead of metric. And if I do this, hopefully I'm at 4. You see it changed from 16 to 4. My brightness is a little off. That's why the automatic brightness on the camera is setting it to be a little hard to see there. But it's in 12-hour, instantly pushed from the app to the watch. You have firmware that you're running, and you can, I presume, update it if there is any update to come, and then you could, of course, disconnect the device. So lots of robust features in the device management, and that's it, except for operating instructions in the last tab. Let's run through those operating instructions, because this is where we're going to start getting into the important information about what you can do with this watch. Our frequently asked questions talk about health data measurement. First of all, you press on the metal electrode of the device surface when you click the app One Key Measure. For accuracy, please be quiet for 5 minutes and no smoking, drinking coffee, food, or drugs within 2 hours before your test. Now, this is if you really want to get a good solid baseline. And you're going to want to get a baseline in order to do the calibration. You're going to see that too. Be still, stable, and quiet during the test. And please try handheld or wet the electrodes if the ECG is disordered or has no wave. Okay? Keep electrodes closely touched with the body. That's about the health data measurement. Change phone to operate. When your Android phone connects with the bracelet, if you use another phone, this is how you deal with that. If you're switching between iOS and Android, you have to kind of do a little bit more and restore the factory settings before going back to Android. Different operational tactics. So if you do both Android and iOS, read about that one. Now, why need to measure high blood pressure after input blood pressure reference value calibration? There is a relation between body blood pressure and calibration value. We can check body blood pressure throughout calibration value. High blood pressure and low blood pressure have obvious differences due to individual physical differences. So pressure patients can get more accurate data if measured after setting the calibration value. I think what they're saying is if you're prone to low blood pressure and you calibrate it for that, then the measurement it's going to take is going to be more accurate because it will deal with that differently, probably in the way it assesses the wave as it calculates all of that, than it would be if you are prone to high blood pressure. So you can do it just taking the normal values, but if you calibrate it first, you're going to be more likely to have higher accuracy. And calibration is really cool on this thing. It really is. Okay, reasons you might have inaccurate data is the wearing manner. You want to completely touch with your skin and keep your hand and heart at the same level. This is a blood pressure monitoring thing, so you got to do all those kind of things. If your hand has many hairs, well, your wrist really, please add water to make it wet and be quiet when you do the measurement, okay? All right, ECG introduction. Electrocardiogram. In each heart cardiac cycle, the pacemaker, atrial, and ventricle have been excited, accompanied by changes of bioelectric through ECG recording from the surface leads to a variety forms of electrical potential changes, which is short for ECG. ECG is objective indicator of heart exciting spread recovery process. There is obvious difference between action point bitmap recording from single excited cardiac cell and each heart cardiac cycle ECG. Got that? Good. Just basically, you're measuring your electrocardiograph information from collecting data through these three metal sensors on your skin. And this is where I was saying, depending on if you wear it on your left or right arm, the silly chart might actually go backwards. So if you're left-handed, make sure you have set in the settings that you're wearing it on your left arm. So I'm going to go back over here to the app. I'm going to come over here to health. And I'm going to pull down and let it synchronize. Now, it's sending over not just the numbers of the readings that it got, but it's sending over that entire chart, which you're going to see here in a minute. I hope. If I go over here to sport, shows the steps I've taken. I haven't done the sleeping yet. And here's the PPG heart rate information. Average sleep, heart rate, highest, lowest, all this kind of data can accumulate over time. Back here, I wanted to give us time for it to come in. So it's measuring 178 beats per minute. It's getting 124/80 as my blood pressure. And here is my heart rate analysis. When I come in here, it's saying that I have no abnormalities in terms of the heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is the distance between the heart beeps, right? If it's not eccentric, then I guess everything is fine. And anyway, it's basically telling me my ECG has no abnormalities. But that's not very much information. Let's take a look at it. Here's the actual reading of my heart rate as measured by the band when you saw me collecting this data. And it shows it to you live reading here. Now, not live, but recorded. It's actually been recorded. It's not showing me on the band directly, the live, of course, because it has too small of a display. But it's showing it to me here across the screen. But wait, there's more. Health report generates the whole thing. There it is. Mr. Smartwatch ticks, male, age 24, height 170, weight 65. Again, this is basic information. That's adjustable any way you want to match you. The average heart rate through the whole 30 seconds was 78 beats per minute. Here's the tag information across the bottom, and boom, I can hit that button in the upper right-hand corner. I can email it out. I can post it to Twitter or Facebook. I can do all sorts of things with it because it's available to me, and I can actually share it as a PDF. So when you share it as PDF, it can be opened up by your health professional if you email it to them in a standard Adobe Acrobat kind of a way. You know, any PDF reader would be able to display the intricacies of your heart rate. Now, I can't pinch and zoom. I can't expand it in this format on this phone. But obviously, if it's a PDF, you can expand it all you want to. And your health provider knows about all these little subtle things in here beyond what you're looking at here. Cool, huh? Well, that's all fine and dandy, but it's not calibrated. No, I didn't actually calibrate this one. So I'm going to go back here, and you see I can't take a measurement from the app unless I calibrate first. So I'm going to do that. As excited and hyper and wound up as I am, I'm going to pretend right now that I am relaxed, just got up. I'm going to set my baseline heart rate by tapping calibration. And here's where you got two different options. You can go to a graded calibration where you say, I'm medium, or medium rare, or medium well, or well done. You can set your grade of calibration if you think you're typically a little bit high, you know, even though the doctor says you got to be on meds or whatever. You could choose that, and you could confirm it. Great. We're not going to go there. We're going to go precise. I mean, precise. Okay? Interim medical value, 120/80, I think, is typically what you get. Backspace, I don't know, 80. Confirm that. And then it says, for accuracy, please be quiet for 5 minutes and no smoking, drinking. We all saw that a little while ago, right? Keep the electrodes closely touched with your body. Confirm. Are we ready? Okay. I'm going to say start measuring. Look, I'm in another screen now where it's actually showing these. Let's move this over a bit. The lighting's going to be kind of funky here because I need to keep this bright, but I need to also be able to show you the band. How can we get this all in the screen together? Because I have to actually have the band on me. Okay, I'm going to say start measuring. It says poor contact. I'm going to touch it now. It's got contact, and there it goes. It's actually showing you in the top the ECG from the electrodes, and in the bottom, the wave that's being created from the optical reading, the PPG. Now later, at the end of this video, when you go through the technical details, of how these two get married together to give you accurate data. You're going to learn about a PWTT, pulse wave time tracker or something or other. Anyway, and that's really, really cool. There, I'm calibrated. I'm fully calibrated. The whole heart wave has been calibrated now, so that if I do a measurement from here, not from the band now, I'm actually measuring it from the app and confirm it. Start measurement. I got 4 seconds to get my finger over there. It's there, and boom. Now it's actually doing a measurement. And that measurement is highly accurate because it's calibrated to coincide with my default level that it just acquired when I created my default measurement. And that's really cool. I mean, this is, they talk medical grade, and I'm still going to say entertainment purposes only, folks. Don't rely on this for medical advice. But wow. Check it with your doctor. Check it with your health professional. Make sure that everything looks good. You're getting similar readings and everything. And you're getting a whole chart. You're getting your whole ECG+PPG chart information here. That's just been measured. It's all in here in my data. Now, if I go back to my sports, I'm not sure if it has to wait for the end of the day. I guess it does to calibrate all of this. Yeah, I can't update it. But you can go, back and forth by day. You can get your data all in through here when you've had enough data. But here in the health thing, it's showing that my heart rate variability health index right now is good. It's at 80. It's not like really low, which it would be if I was quiet and mellow. And it's not like way up here. Oh, other way around. It's not optimal. It's not general. I guess higher is better, the optimal. But it's giving me my health index, okay. And here's my heart rate information over the past couple of measurements. Here's the heart rate chart information. It says 78 is where I'm coming in. Heart rate under quiet condition. Yeah. And then the other one, you've got the ECG blood pressure. 119 was, I guess, the newest measurement. The first one that I did earlier before calibrating was right here. Let's take a look at this one. Here's the systolic showing me 119, right in that range, over 76. And there's those charts. Great detail coming through on this app. And this one, again, is where you get the actual charts themselves. So it's by newest. At the top, it loads the charts, and you can start playback of both of the graphs right there at the same time. It doesn't turn and go the other direction, unfortunately. It's just going to show it to you this way. But again, it's not a problem. If you just want to take a generic look to make sure that the data looks correct, that's great. But if you want to see the whole thing, you go to the health report, let it generate it, and wow, there it is. There it is. Create a PDF, email it out to yourself, archive it, send it to your doctor, whatever you want to do with it. All from this tiny little band, all from this thing. Whoa. Nice, huh? Now, I want to show you one last thing before we wrap this thing up. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to go and do another measurement. And get ready. Here we go. I want you to pay attention to this thing because I start the measurement, pour contact. Now I've got contact. I got my hand on the button. Okay, it's doing it right now. Can you see me over here? Can you see the chart? I'm going to wiggle it a little bit. I'm going to mess around with it. I'm going to take my finger off. Pour contact. Good contact. Pour contact. Good contact. Wiggle, 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 wee. Now, you see the thing that's on the screen of the band is certainly not moving around. That's just an icon. But what it's collecting actually here, okay, it's giving me that data, which is erroneous. I am getting erroneous data here. It's saying heart rate is too fast. But but the data is all screwed up. So I'm going to confirm it so that you can see it. And I don't want to start a measurement here. I want to go back to the data itself. Heart rate too fast, see that? And I'm going to come in here and go to my health report because I want you to see what the data looked like. You see the times that I was messing around with it? This thing is real, folks. It's real. Yeah. All right. Wow. Do I have a source for you on this? If I do, I'll have it in the show notes. This is coming straight from the manufacturer or the producer, the company that's created it, Toledo. So your feedback in the comments section about this device will be going, and I'm sure read directly from the company. They're not in the business of selling these things. They're in the business of making them. So whatever you like or don't like, this is a place that you may actually get the ear of somebody that matters, all right? So check the show notes for information. We'll have buying links for this if I can get them for you. I think they're going to be distributed through our normal channels soon. Yay! Now we do have a supporting partner, BangGood. Check the show notes. We'll have a buying link for you down there with a discount price on the T6. So how about some real-life data? I've spent about 4 days with a band, and I've got some really good data to show you. And the data you're about to see would be similar to, if not identical, from any of the supporting bands or watches that are professing to do ECG plus PPG measurement technology. They'll all be working with apps from this particular company. Now, let me show you. Check your app when you're looking to see what it tethers to for the band that you're interested in buying. Make sure it's either GoHeart or GoHeart or one or more of these other ones. Okay? That's because these are the type of apps that will let you capture your heart wave. And they look somewhat like this. There's a page that shows you information. Another page where you do your calibration and measurement of all the ECG information. Something about connecting with friends. And then your overall settings. Looks a little familiar to what we just saw, right? This is the GoHeart app. Now, if I take us into the GoHeart, which is the one that I've actually been using and you're about to see the data on, you'll notice that it has the same concept layout but with pretty pictures. It's been dressed up a little bit, but it's pretty much the same app. So you could use GoHeart or GoHeart. And I believe there's at least one more in here. Let's try Fit Live. And look, you're getting the same display. So we have a variety of different apps by different names that do exactly the same overall function. So check it out. Like I said, we're going to actually use the GoHeart app, which is where I have all the data on the band that I've used for collecting it. Roll to refresh, and there's my data so far for today. Let's dive into this. The sports shows you hour by hour against a bar graph with no measurements on the side, how many steps you've taken, your calories burned, and your mileage. If we look at yesterday, here was my distribution from midnight to midnight, and how many steps. And I go back another day and I've got that. So that's some of the information that we get. If I show you on a weekly basis, you see the total weekly steps broken down by day and total mileage and calories burned for the week or for the whole month. Interesting, huh? Okay. When we look at sleep, this is the sleep monitoring of the night before. So this is last night's sleep, 6 hours, 37 minutes, deep, light, and how long I stayed up. which I think was when I got up this morning, decided to lay back down and hold real still and pretend to be asleep. Shh, don't tell anybody. But I got some extra light sleep by pretending, holding my arm real still. But the awake was, getting up and moving around, getting some water, going to the bathroom, and then coming back and laying down for a little bit at about 7:02. But when I got up after that, I was up, and it logged it as 6.5 hours, and my sleep target of 82%, wanting 8 hours, and wake-up time 3. I have it on different days. Here's the night before. The night before that, I didn't wear it on purpose. And I don't have any erroneous time. This is a good check when you have a device to see whether or not you get bogus information when you're not even wearing it. And the night before is when I actually started wearing it. So I got 3 days out of 4. What's it look like weekly? Sure enough, I got the bar graph showing the hours and my average weekly sleep time and the time I stayed up intermittently between the time of going to sleep and waking up. And then, of course, there's a monthly. Again, my monthly average time. Really slick, huh? Okay. That's a sleep time. Then we get into here, and this is the, what did they call it? PPG-HR. Remember, this is optical, and this is heart rate, or pulse. So this is the last pulse rate display of the every hour that I'm accumulating my heart rate right now. And these are this is the information of the heart rate that it was able to detect from low to high and average, and my last night's sleep average heart rate. Yes, it was doing that while I was asleep. Yesterday, I took it off for a while. I did some really good exercise, I guess. Well, this says highest was 95. I have a day that I did more exercise, so let's look at that. Here we go, 102. Well, that was at midnight. Maybe it was like fumbling around. Sometimes you'll see an erroneous one pop up. You just got to kind of ignore it. The day before that is here, and then I think that's about it. No more data. Look at that. It doesn't just go back and show you 0. It knows that I didn't start until then. All right, I guess that day with 102 was my workout day. So that's this first screen, your steps, your sleeping, and your heart rate. Then you get to the brand new stuff. We've seen this briefly before in what you just watched. This is the accumulated data now. I have the calibration we went through, and then I can do a measurement directly here, or I can do it on the band, capture it there by clicking on the button that says ECG+PPG. And remember it said to the app? Well, believe it, you have to send it to the app. You have to sync it up after you take that data, because if you go and do another measurement, it wipes the other one out and puts in the new measurement in the watch. You have to transfer them one by one. I found that out. Don't think you can do 3 or 4 of them during your run on your watch by itself, and all of them will transfer to the phone. It won't, just the most recent one. So if you're going to do the readings of the ECG+PPG on the watch or on the band, make sure you transfer it to your phone before you do another one. This one doesn't matter because you're doing it right on the device itself. You just tap measurement, gives you the countdown, and you can collect the data right here. And what are we collecting? We're collecting the ECG heart rate now. This is different than the PPG one. And when you look in here, I haven't done it at all today, but if I go back to yesterday, these are my readings, 80, 65, 64. When you go into it, it talks a little bit about where you are in the heart rate under quiet conditions. All right? Doesn't change. So it's just kind of giving you a information sheet and your total up at the top. Not a lot of data there, so you could just work off of this if you wanted to. The ECG blood pressure, nothing today, but there's the ones from yesterday. And again, if I touch it, it tells me a little bit about systolic, low, ideal, high, and diastolic, and the chart under low pressure. And it gives me my readings, systolic and diastolic. And again, if I took another one, this hasn't changed, so this is information. But there's your data, which again you got right on the chart itself. However, the third button, this is the one that's your entire ECG. Way cool. This was the one, and I don't have any data again for today, but here's the 3 that I had that we just looked at from yesterday. And if I go into it, and I showed you this already, I can start the playback of that particular one, and over time, looping back on itself, you're seeing simultaneously the ECG reading and the PPG reading. Right? And it'll do that for the 30 seconds that it's accumulating. Or you can hit the health report, it generates it, and you get the chart. Now, I saw something that was like really interesting when we were doing the setup, and it said, ask you if you're wearing it on your left or your right arm, because it made a difference. It said that these little peaks that you see going up will be backwards or upside down if you don't wear it on the right arm. Wow, Mr. Tix isn't Mr. Tix if he doesn't check that out, right? So, my first 2 readings of this day, I had the band that's on my left arm actually on my right arm, and I did the reading anyway. And sure enough, here's the report, and look at it. They're all upside down. How the heck did it know that? I have no idea, but it's getting the electrical signal, you know, from touching and the plates on the bottom and the top and the finger and all of that. Anyway, the electricity going through goes through backwards, upside down, when it's on the wrong arm. Now, if I would have said I'm wearing it on the right arm, it would have flipped the chart and everything would have been fine. So that's an interesting thing to note. Now, also, very curious about how does it work, because most of these have been sedentary. How does it work under stress conditions? So I go back over here, and you see the heart rate too fast? That's when I was working out. So I get different charts now when I'm moving. Now, to be fair, I didn't continue running and stuff and try to do it while I was running. I stopped. I held real still. I was breathing heavy, but I took the 30 seconds to accumulate the data, and this is what I get. Looks like a normal heartbeat, right? I mean, I'm not really looking for it to do anything weird. There's a little movement glitch, probably, a couple of places. But all in all, the chart looks good. But I imagine a healthcare professional, and I really wish I could pinch and zoom. But you know, I could just do a freeze frame of this and pinch and zoom it, right? Let's see if I can do that. Press my buttons. I love the LG G3 because all the buttons are right on the back. And I just press the top and bottom and it makes my screenshot. Let me bring that up for you. Here we go. Now you're just looking at the screenshot that I have of that page. But now we can really get in here. And this is what I'm talking about, folks. I am not a trained medical professional, but those of you who are, take a look at this. Is that giving you information that could be used in a way to help your client? I hope so. At least it's a movement in the right direction to where we're now able to calculate the heart rate by the time delay between these peaks, which appears to be much more accurate than the thump of the blood moving through the capillaries. This is electrical. It's really fast, and it's right there. Plus, it's got all sorts of other information. You got all of your basic stuff here. And again, you can make this a PDF and share it. Send it to your doctor or whomever. This is my heart under light stress when I was getting a pulse rate somewhere on here of 105. Okay. Now we're back on the app. So if I go back, again, it's saying my heart rate was too fast as their assessment. And I take the second one just to show you for comparisons. There's another one that I did. Okay, get the feel for that. And I'm going to show you a nice calm one, just in case you're interested in seeing if there's a difference. Late at night, just before bed. There you go. Actually, it looked more regular to me when I was exercising. I wonder if that says something. I think I'll exercise more. Interesting. I gotta admit, this band and this technology has gotten me up off of my perch and out doing some great movement, and I'm going to stick with it. So that's a benefit in and of itself for a little $40 band. Amazing. All right. So what else have we got in here? Every day is captured. However many times you do it, it's not automatic. You have to do it manually. You can do it from the app or you can do it from the band and make sure you transfer it. Now it's going back into days that I don't have any data whatsoever. So in this case, it will just keep going. It doesn't know when I got the band actually. But when I actually do the measurements, they'll show up. The heart rate variability index seems to be just the latest reading. I'm not getting an HRV in the analysis of any of these. Are you seeing it anywhere? I don't think so. On the health report itself, it's got all of that, which is your basic stuff, and the average heart rate, the strip chart information, and the date and time. So the heart rate variability is an area that I think personally they could really improve upon because there's a lot of meaningful information there. As I understand it, heart rate variability is the change in distance between each of those heartbeats. If there's a lot of variation, then you're under stress. And if it's very uniform, then you're calm. And there's a whole bunch of stuff related to heart math and other things that go into heart coherence. And I mean, it's a big deal. And it's really great for those dealing with wellness. So this is the first introduction of ECG in a wearable concept. Get ready to see much more expansion in heart rate variability. And that pretty much covers it. The care, again, I don't have friends, so I don't have anybody in here. But as I understand it, your data can be cross-shared with other people who either have the band or a similar one like you have, or maybe even just your relatives. You want grandma and teach her how to do the measurements? That's great. Perhaps this is where you can see her results by setting the app up and logging in and marrying it together, and grandma will show up as a friend. And then the last tab we've seen before is the overall settings of how you go through to work with the band, including setting your sleep target and your steps. That's an overview of the data supported for these ECG+PPG devices. So what is all this ECG and PPG and PWTT stuff anyway? And why do we care? Well, we're going to explain that in this little section. And if you're watching it, it means you've just watched a video about an ECG+PPG sensor fitness band or watch. Because I'm going to tack this section at the end of every single one of those, since it's new technology and I know you guys aren't watching all of them. If you've seen this segment before, you can bail out of the video because it's a repeat. If you haven't seen it, you might want to listen to understand about the band or watch you're considering purchasing. I'm going to read through it with you. First of all, take a look at these pictures. You know, in the medical community, they can hook you up to a biomedical device that creates this whole heart wave chart labeled with A, B, C, D, E, and all these different areas and heights and things that the medical folks know how to read. It's a medical equipment device and it's relatively expensive, although you can probably rent them for the time you need them if you have issues related to your heart. You have electrodes that go on your body and they pick up a signal that gets recorded through the electronics in the device. Well, the electrocardioelectric monitor is a bioelectricity that's generated from each of the heart sections beating by a pacemaker, atrium, and ventricular. Yes, ECG data is calculated from the changes of it. You're going to find that this is kind of Chinese English as we read it as well, so I hope we can both figure out what they're actually saying because the sentence structure isn't perfect. What they're looking at is taking this concept and shoving it into this device on your wrist with 3 electrodes. 2 are usually on the bottom, and the third one is something that you touch on the side without letting your left and right arms make contact, okay, so that the signal that's being picked up by those electrodes will come from or pass through your heart. From the bottom electrodes and separately from the top electrodes down both arms. According to the principle of medical testings, you put a finger on the electrode plate of, in this case it's the T6, one of the watch bands we're reviewing, but any of them that are designed this way, while wear on wrist to produce bioelectricity through the body's circulation to detect the data generated. The goal is to get a relative chart similar to this one that comes from this. Now we're going to find out why you need that. First, we have to do some definitions. The definition of ECG is electrocardiography, and there's ECG sensors that measure the biopotential generated by electric signals that control the expansion and contraction of the heart chambers. PPG is what we're used to seeing for getting your heart rate on smartwatches and smartbands. PPG, here we go, is plethysmography. Photoplethysmography.
Photoplethysmography. Photoplethysmography.
Sensors. Don't do that with a mouthful of jelly beans. These use a light-based technology to sense the rate of blood flow as controlled by the heart's pumping action. Those are the little green lights you see on the bottom of your watch. And that's what we've typically used to come up with your heart rate, your pulse. And I guess in the sort of newer technology, it's been used to create your analysis of your blood pressure and your blood oxygen. But we'll continue on that one because we still haven't been able to fully test the accuracy of the PPG by itself. What's really cool and what's new with these devices is the blend, the combination of the ECG and the PPG for a PWTT that lets you come up with a better accuracy of all of your biometrics. Okay. Comparative questions. Let's run through these. It tells you the difference between the two so you can better understand them. How is heart activity measured? ECG sensors directly use electric signals produced by the heart activity, while PPG sensors use electrical signals derived from light reflected due to the changes in blood flow during heart activity. I kind of got that from the definitions, right? Well, which is most accurate? ECG is a reference standard signal that is used for monitoring cardio health and wellness by healthcare providers. PPG sensors, on the other hand, typically use ECG signals as a reference for static heart rate comparison. Kind of saying that ECG is sort of the standard that is used by healthcare providers, and the optical method is measured against the static for comparison to see how accurate they are. Hint, ECG sounds like it's more accurate. Can heart rate, HR, be measured? Heart rate is the same as pulse. With ECG, HR can be measured accurately. HR can be measured with PPG, however, it is only suitable for average or moving average measurements. That's why it's kind of difficult to tell when you're getting your heart rate on your current watch if it's real or not. It's an average. So if you're sprinting and checking your heart rate at the end of the sprint, it may be reading lower than it actually is because it's doing an average, or what's called a moving average, which means throwing away the oldest data and, say, taking the last 5 or 10 measurements and averaging all of those as it moves forward in time. That's the moving average. Okay, can heart rate variability, oh my gosh, here's another term. What in the world is that? Can it be measured? HRV can be readily derived from ECG data, as our peak intervals can be extracted Wake up! HRV, come on, hang in there, can be heart rate variability is the how much variance there is between heart rates. Let's say you're at 60 beats per minute. Well, what if you got 60, 63, 58, 60? That's the heart rate variability. Correct me if I'm wrong, any medical providers. I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to really know this stuff. I'm just working my way through it like the rest of us here. Heart rate variability, can you measure that? And apparently a measure of the heart rate variability gives you an indicator of your level of stress. If you're calm, if you're zenning, if you're doing mindfulness, it should be regular. Okay, your HRV should be regular. If it's static and changing, it could mean you're under stress. So that's the watches and devices that tell you your stress level. That's probably what they're attempting to give you is the HRV, which apparently is really hard from the PPG because that's a moving or static average, right? And doesn't really take into account the variability. We move on. HRV can be readily derived, however, from the ECG data, as R peak intervals can be extracted with millisecond accuracy. R peak, I think, is that little beep, beep, you know, the little sound you see in the TV shows before you go flatline, right? Beep, the little beep, beep, that's the R peak. And you can measure that with millisecond accuracy, which means you can really tell the time difference between those peaks, right? So that meaningful HRV data can be obtained with short duration measurements, usually like 30 seconds or so, which is typically what you get in the chart that comes from the transmission of this data from your device to your app in your in your phone that you could extract and send out to your healthcare provider. With PPG sensors, peak interval accuracy is limited by usable sampling rate due to the high power consumption of the LEDs. With PPG, pulse rate variation correlates with HRV, right? With PPG, this is the light diode kind of thing, PRV, pulse rate variation, correlates with the heart rate variation for longer periods of measurement, over 5 minutes, but not for short duration measurements because it's doing a moving average. Only if the moving average starts to change dramatically, which you can only get over a long period of time, in a sense you're looking at the average of the averages, or the standard deviation from the average of the averages, will you find that you have stress or not by trying to use the PPG diode technology to get pulse rate variation. That's too long to go, by goodness. By then, if you sat for 5 minutes, you would have calmed yourself down. You wouldn't need this. Maybe that's what they're trying to get you to do. Breathe. How long does it take to take a reading? Well, ECG sensors don't require long settling times. I mean, you hook it up and it goes, right? Stat clear. So, meaningful readings can be obtained very shortly after startup. PPG sensors require a relatively long setting time due to the need for, you ready? Measuring the amount of ambient light and calculating the compensation needed for canceling its effect. Are you taking your pulse in the dark, in the sunlight? Are you moving? Are you moving in and out of shadow? And all that ambient light has to be added or subtracted correctly to the tiny variation that the light diodes are getting back from in the sensors that represents the blood movement through your capillaries. It's really tricky. And they got big old algorithms to try to cancel out the effects of ambient light. But nonetheless, it can't really start giving you a good measurement, which is why you don't see it right away on your watch, until it's measured the ambient light and compensated for it. Whereas the ECG, boom, it's right there. PPG sensors may also require compensation of motion artifacts to produce a reading. Come on, common sense. If you want the thing to work, you're going to have to hold really, really still when you have the optical sensor reading your pulse. If you move a little bit, your capillaries are moving underneath and it's just going to throw everything off. You found that out. And that's why oftentimes we think that these things are not accurate. Well, they're partially accurate as we're learning, and they're not accurate because you're not standing still and your ambient light is changing. Fix those conditions and your current watch will be more accurate. There, you learned something, making it worthwhile watching this whole silly thing, right? All right, wait, there's more. Here we go. Which has the lowest power consumption? We need to know that for these darn low battery watches and bands, right? NeuroSky's BDM 101 ECG sensor features extremely low power consumption, operating at 2.5 milliwatts. Most PPG sensors require approximately 30 milliwatts of operating power. Well, as you know, that's really not all that much, either of those, in comparison to cellular radio or GPS. So you're not like really draining your battery unless you have it on continuously monitoring your heart rate, probably with either sensors, but for sure with the optical. Which is the smallest footprint? Well, the BDM 101 ECG. You think this is a sales sheet for the BDM 101? Probably is. It's the world's smallest ECG sensor at only 3 millimeter by 3 millimeter with no additional components required. PPG sensors featured a relatively large PCB footprint. That's not the PCBs that are toxic. I have no idea what it is, but I don't. Hopefully it's not. Oh my gosh, if we're running around with PCBs on our wrist. It's a big package, typically 6 by 6, which is like 9 times bigger, right? Or 4 times bigger. Plus additional PCB area for the microcontroller unit, battery management crystal, LED circuits, and don't forget the little wire that, has to hook it all up. A lot of stuff going in there. It's a big footprint. In a small package, it takes up more space. What they're not mentioning, though, is remember, you got to have electrodes, and so it doesn't take up a lot of space, but there's 2 plates on the bottom and 1 on the side or the front that have to be touched. So that's all part of the ECG circuit. But the little goodie itself that figures it all out is a tiny little thing on the ECGs. Is any external equipment required to produce a reading? Well, on this fancy BMD101 sensor features on-chip HR measurements. So no external equipment is required. In contrast, the PPG sensor does require external microcontroller unit for HR calculation. This is all in one. This one has the little separate diode thing, and that's why you got that cable inside if you take your watch back off that hooks it into the main circuit board, because it's got to hook up to a chip to read and understand what that optical sensor is picking up. How easy it is to integrate with a device? The BDM 101 ECG sensor features an SDK, Android, iOS, for easy app development and integration, which is, folks, why we're now able to get this stuff on these smart devices. So far, it's in bands. As you know, if you're watching this video, you just probably saw a review on a fitness band that has ECG capability, but it's going to come to watches. You mark my words. By 2018, we're going to start seeing ECG, PPG integration on watches as well. Why not? It's small. It's just a matter of isolating the case and putting electrodes on the back and someplace to touch on the watch to get the electrical hookup. The sensor features an SDK, which is sort of like an APK. After you put the SDK in the APK, you got an app that you can use, right, for easy app development and integration. PPG sensors require an MCU, firmware up development, and integration in addition to host platform app development and integration, which is why we've seen a lot of the different watches, more or less accurate or not, around the optical sensor stuff, because the sensor unit itself is just spitting out the data. It's all up to the MCU firmware that interprets all of that stuff to give you accurate or not so accurate heart rate or pulse data. Okay? I guess we should be saying pulse data when you're talking about optical and heart rate data when you're talking about electrical. Get the terminology right. When it comes to key considerations like size, power consumption, accuracy, ease of integration, and richness of data, ECG biosensors present a clear advantage over their PPG counterparts for heart rate monitoring. but it's just now hitting the market in our tiny little watches and bands. ECG biosensors are capable of delivering the widest range of heart health metrics because they are able to capture more comprehensive signals of overall heart performance, including both heart rate and heart rate variability. Now, up until now, all of this, we are talking about your pulse rate, your heart rate, nothing yet about blood pressure or blood oxygen, two other measurements that the medical community uses and fitness zealots use to understand their body dynamics. Let's move on. That brings us to pulse wave transit time, PWTT, and its relationship with systolic blood pressure. How do you take the stuff that we're getting from the heart wave and the biometric optical sensor, all right, the I'm off the screen, ECG signal and the PPG signal? How do you mess around with that in order to come up with blood pressure in relationship to your actual systolic blood pressure to get accurate readings? Well, this paper talks about all of that. And I'm going to put it on the screen and let you read it. Maybe we'll jump into a little bit of it, but and I also have the reference to it in the show notes down below. And hopefully you can just freeze your screen right now and read this. I'll give you some overall, well, let's look at the abstract to get the premise of where it's coming from. It says that blood pressure is one important parameter in assessing a patient's or your own health status and fitness and so forth. The measurement of blood pressure using conventional method is less practical in monitoring continuous blood pressure. This paper proposes an automatic technique for monitoring blood pressure continuously using the relation of the pulse wave transit time with the systolic blood pressure. The measurement of PWTT involves the marking of electrocardiograph R, the ECG R peak from electrocardiograph signal, and the peak of peripheral pulse wave from the PPG signal. Okay? That's the optical and the electrical. Data collection involves 3 different sessions, which are resting period, exercise period, and recovery period, thus establishing the relationship between SBP and PWTT. The results of monitoring blood pressure based on pulse wave transit time will facilitate personal healthcare monitoring blood pressure continuously. And that's why I do deep breathing exercises. Okay, introduction gives you some of the background, basically what the PWTT really is. And then we come back up here to column 2, and it continues with that chart. And you can kind of see that what they're doing is measuring the time. This is against time, the time between the peak that is seen on the ECG and the bump that you see on the optical PPG. This is your systolic. You hear my roosters? Love it. This is the optical bump that is used to compute your pulse rate with the optical sensor. And this is the really fine, detailed microsecond accuracy of the ECG. Getting both those signals coming in out of your body at once and analyze can let them compute your PWTT. And this whole paper is based on using that PWTT with your systolic blood pressure to get biometric data that's more accurate for you and your body. So it goes through in this particular paper and talks about setting up an experiment or two. And now we get really technical. So we'll just let this parse itself on the screen. Shows you a pulse circuit. This is the philosophy and technique behind doing this whole thing. And obviously, they've managed to miniaturize all of this electronics down to where it now fits in these little fitness bands. Okay, and then they go on to do a second experiment. And this is just the first 2 pages of the whole article, because you got to buy the whole article. This is what they give you for free. You'll see the link down below. If you're really interested in this, you can dive further. So we've moved on from ECG and PPG measurements to determine the pulse wave transit time. From that, and using specialized circuitry, we can analyze the signal difference to get the PWTT and work with it. So we're talking about an electroplate type blood pressure bracelet that's based on the principle of PWTT to measure blood pressure. You got the blood pressure reading, the ECG test plus PPG, and heart rate. Those are kind of the three things that are going on now in this new family of devices. The PWTT principle, trying again to talk about it in so many different ways it makes sense. Pulse wave transmission speed and blood pressure is directly related to high blood pressure. Pulse transmission fast, otherwise slow. I love Chinese English. Through the ECG signal and the pulse wave signal, PPG can be obtained pulse wave transmission speed, PWTT, plus wave transmission time. It's actually pulse wave. I'm not going to let the Chinese errors slip through, but their own unique languaging is okay. We can figure it out. Anyway, the pulse, the ECG and the PPG signaling can get you the PWTT, and then from that calculate the blood pressure value. So once again, this is the ECG signal that you see, and a certain point in time can be registered when it finds that peak. This is the optical thing coming through, and at a certain time it can determine that bump in your capillary response back to the sensor, and it can measure the time difference between these two on your arm. With that time difference, it can then go and calculate your blood pressure. When testing the ECG, the right hand on the metal body on the bracelet, do not touch the left arm like that, okay? You can't rest your finger against it. You can't rest your thumb. That's why most of them have a button on the front. See, here's the electrodes on the back and the other electrodes on the side that you squeeze. Some of them have it on the front, much easier, but some have it on the side. Either way could work, as long as it bridges your heart. The two electrodes at the bottom of the hand ring are in full contact with the left hand. The three parts will form an electric circuit, and combined with the green photoelectric sensor test result, calculate the blood pressure data. All right, we're almost done. One more document I wanted to go through. Oh, gosh. Yeah, it's long, but it really lays the total foundation for this. So if you're in school, especially if you're studying medical or health, you might want to write a theme paper on this. I think you could get an A. Mr. Tix will help you. With this, I'm not going to answer a lot of questions. I don't know much more than what I'm showing you, but I mean, this is good stuff. You guys should seriously think about writing a dissertation. Well, at least a homework paper. The emergence of mobile technology advances in these biosensors are promising to change the conventional healthcare system to facilitate systems that provide for mobile and individual-centered healthcare systems. Mobile monitoring systems can provide continuous physiological data and better information regarding the general health of individuals. I love good English. For example, such a mobile cardiac health monitoring system can reduce healthcare costs by disease prevention and enhancement of the quality of life with disease management, i.e., this could be a health preventative device that can be used in wellness by monitoring correctly your biodata, and especially being able to get the ECG information, the actual chart, and send that off to your healthcare provider if you have some form of an incident that needs monitoring but happens so quickly they don't have time to hook you up at the doctor's office or get you into the hospital. Something like this might give you that preliminary data that could find something way more than this PWTT thing. I mean, when you look at all of the jiggles on that, they all mean something, and doctors and medical folks know what that is. Cardiologists, valuable. So if it's reliable and if it's accurate, which it's professing that it is because it's actually giving you that electrical hookup directly to your heart, then that data may be really, really valuable. So even if you don't use it for blood pressure and heart rate, the fact that you've got ECG output in the form of a chart that can be made into a PDF that can be emailed is amazing. Accordingly, a mobile device is disclosed that determines a user's cardiac health status by monitoring multiple key cardiovascular parameters and or their index, such as ECG, heart rate, cardiac output, and blood pressure, in a continuous and non-invasive fashion. For example, users can conveniently carry currently handheld mobile devices anywhere and conduct self-monitoring when desired or necessary, all the time or as needed when convenient. And that's what these medical devices often do that you see, stuck on a belt or something like that. They'll measure you 24/7 for 3 weeks, and then they dump all that data at the doctor's office and work with it. We're talking about a little wrist kind of thing that can either give you spontaneous instant measurements over 30 seconds to 2 minutes, or actually be able to do continuous measurement. It's storing that data that's the difficult thing. It can certainly generate it, but anyway, we digress. The home fitness bands are going to just basically give you your ECG, heart rate, and blood pressure information. All right, I'm not going to read any more. Let's just let you skim this whole document, because it's giving you kind of a background pep talk about why this is good, okay? But we will get in here and says it is commonly accepted that the pulse wave transmit time can be registered as an index of arterial stiffness and has been employed as an indirect estimation of blood pressure. PWTT can be measured at the time as the time interval between the R wave peak of ECG and the pulse wave arrival in the same cardiac cycle. When ECG and pulse wave are simultaneously recorded, that can be derived. PWTT was originally applied to the area blood pressure estimation, and here's a reference for all that. And since then, the researchers have studied the mechanism of the method and on and on. So now you're getting the background that has led up to the science of being able to do this with cuffless blood pressure estimation based on PTTT, pulse transit time techniques, right? It's actually pulse wave, PWTT, so forth and so on. Okay, so bottom line, what we are looking at in these new devices that Mr. Tix is all excited to be bringing you, a bunch of different bands, a bunch of different watches, as this new technology emerges and becomes the de facto standard for, say, 2018 to 2019 in wearable devices. What we're looking at is the science behind how that works and why it is presumed, estimated, anticipated, and hoped to be relatively accurate and usable for collecting biometric data for your fitness and overall health. All right? Thanks for watching this. Really, if you stuck with it the whole way, I applaud you. Hopefully you can use it somehow in your life, and it'll be valuable to you. In the meantime, you now know what we're talking about when you see something that says it's got ECG plus PPG. Once again, if you are interested in this particular band, the T6, check the show notes down below for a buying link. Pick it up from BangGood, our supporting partner on this watch, and enjoy the new ECG+PPG technology that's coming out in this new form factor. We'll see you again soon.